Good morning. Good to see you here in the room. Good to see you out there online joining us. Thanks for spending your Sunday morning with us here today. It is June 13th. Is that right? The summer is officially here. Summer's here. We're excited the summer's here. Excellent, excellent. Did you have a vacation yet? Anybody already have a vacation? Oh, we have a few people already had a vacation. Well done. All right, so anyway, I'm Jason. I'm the pastor here at Life Church. Really glad that you chose to be with us here this morning. We have a great morning planned for us. A lot of fun things going on at Life Church, but also this morning. We're going to be finishing up this teaching series that we've been in called Breathe. We've been talking about learning to care for the soul and thinking about the soul and technology today. And one of the things technology doesn't often provide for us is peace. And so I think as we sing and as we think today, we're gonna think about peace, and we're gonna sing through some songs about peace and talk about that a little bit today in light of our engagement with technology. So the kids get the kids programming going on out there today. So hopefully you might have some kids out there engaged. If not, come back in 2 weeks when we'll have kids programming again. But the kids are always welcome in here too. So anyway, good to see you. Thanks for joining with us today. Oh, actually, I forgot. Remember, we always want to encourage you to fill out that digital connection card. Take a moment to let us know that you're here. And that digital connection card is found in our Life Church app. And if you don't have our Life Church app, it's a way that we use technology to do good in the world. And so download our app. You can get it at any app store. And just search Life Church Lancaster. You can find us and fill out that digital connection card. So anyway, good to see you. Thanks for being here. The band is ready to rock and roll. So they're going to lead us in some songs. Take it away, guys.
Thank you. We are ready to rock and roll. But if you so feel that you want to stand, you go ahead and stand. If you want to sit, go ahead and sit. Our songs today are focusing on peace and calmness and stillness that we find in the Lord, that we find in praising his worthiness. So it's up to you. If you feel led to stand, you may stand. You follow the Spirit. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever bring. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me.
Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you.
Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love. trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will put my life in you. I will put my trust in you. You're tearing through the night. You're riding on the storm, staring down the fight. My eyes found you.
My heart of storm clouds raging deep within. The Prince of Peace came bursting through the wind. The violent sky held its breath, and in your light I found a rest. Tearing through the night, riding on the storm, staring down the fight. My eyes found yours, shining like the sun, striding through my fear. The Prince of Peace met me there. Hope like the sunlight piercing through the dark. The Prince of Peace came and broke into my heart. Cross the empty grave, and in your light I found grace. Tearing through the night, riding on the storm, staring down the fight. My eyes found yours, shining like the sun, striding through my fear. The Prince of Peace left me there.
You're always there. Hear my prayer. Your love surrounds me when my thought wage war. When night screams terror, there your voice will roar. Come death or shadow, God, I know your light will meet me there. When fear comes knocking, there you'll be my God. When day breeds trouble, there you'll hold my heart. Come storm or battle, God, I know your peace will meet me there. When love surrounds me, when my thoughts wage war, when night screams terror, there your voice will roar. Come death or shadow, God, I know your light will meet me there. When fear comes knocking, there you'll be my God. When day breeds trouble, there you'll hold my heart. Come storm or battle, God, I know your peace will meet me there again. Oh, be still, my heart, and know and my soul will know. Oh, be still, my heart, and know that you are God. Oh, fear no evil, for I know you are here. Hide me now under your wings. Cover me within your mighty hand. When the oceans rise and thunders roar, I will soar with you above the storm. Father, you are king over the flood. I will be still, know you are God. Find rest, my soul, in Christ alone. Know His power in quietness and trust. When the oceans rise and thunders roar, I will soar with you above the storm. Father, you are king over the flood. I will be still, know you are God. I will be still, know you are God. You are peace, oh restless soul. Yeah, you are peace when I thoughts rage war. Yeah, you are peace to the anxious heart. That's who you are. That's who you are. And you are peace when my fear takes hold. And you are peace when I feel enclosed. Oh, you are peace when I lose control. That's who you are. That's who you are. Oh, oh, when the oceans rise and thunders roar, I will soar with you above the storm. Father, you are king over the flood. I will be still and know you are God. Oh, I will be still and know you are God. I will be still and know you are God. in this moment today and every day. Let us feel your presence. Let us feel your spirit through the beautiful music, through the beautiful nature, through peace and quiet. We are yours and we thank you. Amen.
Well, good morning, Life Church. I bet a big round of applause for the band. They were so beautiful this morning. Thank you for setting the mood. He is peace. He is peace. So, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you here in the room and all of you out there on the interweb, out there in the internet land there. Thank you for spending a little time with us this morning. My name is Dwayne. If we haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, I'm one of the guest services team leaders here at Life Church. Why Life Church? Well, it is a wonderful, wonderful, safe place to explore faith. Whether you've just started kicking the tires on this faith thing, whether you've been in church your whole life, whether you walked away and you're just coming back, we welcome you here. This is a safe place to get to know Jesus. Our one mission as a church is to lead people to Jesus for life. Why? Because we know he changes things. He changes us. He changes situations. He is the King of Kings. So thank you for being here with us. Thank you for exploring this safe place with us. We also want to remind you, we really want nothing from you except for filling out that digital connection card. Since the pandemic, it is the best way for us to know who's engaging with us, who's part of our community, who's watching us online at home in their pajamas eating their cereal, who's here in the auditorium. So please take a minute to fill out that digital connection card. It's so important to us, and we thank you for doing so. Life Church only exists because of the community that is here in the room and out there online. So if you would like to give to our mission, we have a safe, secure way for you to give, and that is to text any amount to 84321. Once again, it's a safe and secure way to give to this mission, and we certainly appreciate all of you who do support this mission. We couldn't do it without you. We can do great things together as a community, so we thank you for that. Hey, who's looking for some fun? This summer, we've got some fun hikes. Each month, we're doing at least one hike as a community. This month, our hike is on June the 26th, so if you can make it, please come on out. It's a great way to meet some other lifers, as we like to call ourselves, so get to know each other, get outside, get some fresh air, and have some fun. So check the app, because that's where you can find all of our information. And once again, that is Saturday, June the 26th, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Take a minute. Calm down your heart. Think about the peace that Jesus brings as we finish this message series. Thank you.
I rest in you, O God. I am in your safekeeping. Body and soul held in peace. My heart cries out to you, my God. All that upsets me, you see. All that disturbs me, you understand. Only here in your presence am I fully known. I am wrapped in grace. I rest in you, O God. I am in your safekeeping. Body and soul held in peace. I try to relax, but anger rattles me. I try to relax, but my failings niggle at me. Be still. Be silent. Put your trust in the Lord. I rest in you, O God. I am in your safekeeping. Body and soul held in peace. In the stillness, the light of your face shines. My heart turns to thankfulness and is glad. I have more than enough. You, Lord, are more than enough. I lie down to sleep, safe and sound. I rest in you, O God. I am in your safekeeping. Body and soul held in peace. Be still and rest. You are held in peace.
Be still and rest. You are held in peace. So we've been learning or talking about learning to be still. Hopefully you've been on the journey with us here over these past 4 weeks as we've been thinking about breathe, learning to care for the soul, and you could summarize a bit of what we've been talking about as just learning to be still, right? Learning to be still. My name is Jason. If we've not met yet, I get to be the pastor here at Life Church, and we're really glad, as we said earlier, that you're here with us today. And so we've been talking about this soul care, right? And while that word may sound funny, like if you were sitting at the lunch table at your office, and you said, yeah, I'm doing some soul care this week. Your coworkers may look at you a little funny. Maybe you'll feel awkward about saying that. Maybe not. Hopefully not. But soul care is a really, really important thing to do in our lives. It's something that helps us connect deeply with ourselves, our true selves, the self who we are on deep within the inside, the self whom God has made us to be, the part of us, the self that He has designed to bring into this world. Soul care helps us connect with that. Our soul care can help us be centered in this world, right? We're being pushed and pulled in so many directions, so many opinions and forces are pushing and prodding us in so many different directions, and it's easy to lose our sense of purpose and meaning and what we're here to do, and so soul care can help us be centered, and soul care also helps us experience God in new and fresh and important ways, and so there's a lot of important benefits to caring for the soul. And so we've been just trying to think about this for these past few weeks and talk directly about how do we do this? How do we care for the soul? What does it look like? And one of the people I've learned a lot from, Parker Palmer, and I've referenced him a few times through this series, but he talks about the soul in his writings. And this is one of the things he says about the soul. He uses this metaphor of it being like a wild animal. He says the soul, like a wild animal, the soul is tough, it's resilient, resourceful, savvy, and self-sufficient. It knows how to survive in hard places. And he goes on in that quote, which we're not going to get into, but talking about how the soul can help us get through depression. It can help us get through grief. It can really weather difficult storms. Then he says, yet despite its toughness, the soul is also shy. Just like a wild animal, it seeks safety in the dense underbrush, especially when other people are around. Maybe that resonates with you. He says if we want to see a wild animal, we know that the last thing we should do is go crashing through the woods yelling for it to come out, right? But if we will walk quietly into the woods, sit patiently at the base of a tree, breathe with the earth, and fade into our surroundings, the wild creature we seek might put in an appearance. The importance of learning to be still, learning to be quiet, learning to breathe. And the soul makes itself known to us like a wild animal just appearing in the woods. So we've been thinking about learning to be still. Now, there are a lot of ways in which we can care for the soul, right? Each of us needs to kind of figure out what works for us. And this is part of the journey, right? Sometimes laughing and telling stories with friends as you sit around a campfire and you just connect and just there's something about that when it's over, you're like, wow, that just like filled my soul with joy and goodness and happiness, right? That's a way you can care for your soul. Or maybe for some it's service, right? We can care for our soul through the act of service. You care for the poor, you care for the needy, you minister to the homeless, you in some way or another, giving of yourself is a way we care for our souls. Or even attending a worship service like this, which I'm hoping you enjoy, and we're glad that you're here today. Hopefully this is a way in which we care for our souls, right? Maybe it's through the arts, right? That's partly why we sing as a part of our worship services, because there's something about music, there's something about the arts that resonates deeply within us. You can't always put words to it, right? It's just something stirs within us. And so there's a lot of ways in which we can care for our souls, but in this series, we've really just sort of focused on a couple of them. Primarily, we talked about learning to be silence and solitude, right? How to get alone, to be by yourself, to be in silence. But also then, last week we talked about nature and the experience of nature and how that affects our souls. And so please don't hear, through this series, those are the only two ways we can care for our souls, right? There's a lot of different ways in which we can do that. But today, I want to talk to you about the soul and technology, because we live in a technological age. This is just an age of information. Technology inundates our lives in really, really powerful ways, and we would do wise to think about how we are affected by technology and how technology affects our souls. So now, first I want to say as a disclaimer, the goal of this is not to be a sermon about the evils of technology. Right? I'm trying not to just focus on, everything's so bad. Throw your phone into the river. Get rid of all your social media apps. That's not going to be the goal of this sermon, although you may hear some of those tones coming out of me. It's just due to my own angst with trying to figure out technology. But the hope is to talk today about how we can leverage the good and minimize the bad, right? Leverage the good, minimize the bad. So in the spirit of John Maxwell, I don't know how many of you read John Maxwell, but he has all these books that are like, the 21 irrefutable laws of this and the 7 indisputable laws of that. So in the spirit of John Maxwell today, I have 3 indisputable laws of technology that I want to talk to you about. All right, 3 indisputable, irrevocable, whatever word you want to put in there, laws of technology. So let's think about a few laws of technology this morning, and hopefully these will be helpful to you. The first thing I want to think about is this law of advancement. The law of advancement. Here's what I can tell you about technology. It's going to keep advancing, right? A lot of us want to put the brakes on. Sometimes, especially the older you get. The younger you are, you're like, woohoo, a new app, right? And everybody loves this new app. And the older you are, you're like, oh, geez, I got to learn how to use another app. But technology keeps advancing. It just does. And there really isn't a lot that we can do in order to stop the advancement of technology. It's just, I was listening to a book one time, and they were talking about the technological advancements that happened in the early 1900s, from the year 1900 to 1912 or something like that. The advancements that took place in society in 10 to 15 years are profound. Absolutely mind-boggling, and how much they affected the everyday life of normal people. And we continue to live in that kind of an age where every few years, new technology is coming out, new advancements are coming out, right? You don't even have to mow your lawn anymore. You just get a GPS robot lawnmower and it goes out there and does it for you. That's pretty amazing, right? This is the kind of stuff that's happening, right? We can't stop the advancement of technology. It's just going to advance. Any attempts at stopping the advancement of technology is going to be like holding a big beach ball underwater in a swimming pool. Do you ever do that? You ever try to just crawl onto a beach ball and keep it under the water? Maybe that's just me. But anyway, you just can't keep it down. It's going to come out. It's going to pop out. And if we decide as a community we're going to inhibit the advancement of technology, there's someone else somewhere else who's going to push forward and make those new things and introduce that new technology to the world. Right? We could choose to live like the Amish. We're here in Lancaster County. We're very familiar with the Amish community. But they have chosen as a community to restrict and limit the advancement of technology in certain ways into their communities, but that has not stopped the advancement of technology. It just keeps moving forward. Someone else is going to keep the ball rolling, and they're going to keep it going. And I know sometimes we get a little nostalgic about the past. Again, dating myself, you younger people, maybe you're not as nostalgic about the past, but it's easy as someone who's now in midlife. I know I don't look like I'm older than 25, but but I can remember in high school when we didn't have smartphones, right? Right? Anybody with me here? Can I get an amen, right? The world was better then, wasn't it? Right? If you wanted to call your friend, you had to remember their phone number, right? Does anybody remember? The only phone numbers I remember now are immediate family, but those are even hard to remember, and that's it. And the ones I learned in childhood, right? Somebody have childhood phone numbers still memorized? Yes, all right. Yeah, there you go. Because you had to know your phone numbers to get a hold of somebody. And if you wanted to talk to a girl or a boy, or you wanted to get a hold of a friend, you had to pick up the phone. Maybe you had the rotary dial. Yeah, and if you didn't know the phone number, you had to use the phone book, right? The phone book. That's not like the instruction manual for your phone, right? It was a phone book. We still get phone books. I got one in my mailbox a few weeks ago. I'm like, why are they doing this? It's like this colossal waste of money and trees. I mean, come on now, let's go. But anyway, we can get nostalgic about the past, right? And when I was in high school, no one knew what anybody else was doing at any given moment. You had no idea what your friends were doing. They could all be hanging out, having a party, and you weren't there, and you didn't feel bad or excluded because you had no idea that it happened, right? Now it's on social media, or you pull out your Snap Map, right? And you can see where all your friends are, and you see that 6 of your friends are all at the same house, and you're not there, right? So nobody told you about that, and that hurts your feelings, and it should. But anyway, this is, the world was easier back in 1987. So, in certain ways, right? How many of us actually want to go back? Right? When we start to think about, the other things that we didn't have back then, the other ways the world worked, the other technology that we used back then, you begin to go, you know what, I don't really think I want to go back. We get a little nostalgic, but we don't really want to go back. Now, we can't stop this advancement of technology. So what we have to do is we have to be the kind of humans who are learning to harness our technology in ethical and appropriate and healthy ways, right? That's what our technological advancement is asking of us. And even in the 60s, Dr. Martin Luther King, he had his thumb on this idea, and he spoke about it really eloquently, especially in the context of the proliferation of nuclear weapons that was happening during his time. And he saw, he saw like, hey, we are going to destroy ourselves because we now have the power to destroy ourselves if we can't figure out how to live together. And so this is how he talked about it. He said this: our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. What a powerful thing to say. Guided missiles and misguided men. The scientific power is advancing, technology advancing, and yet our spiritual power, our soul power, is it keeping up with the advancement? He went on in another place to describe it this way. He says, through our scientific and technological genius, we've made of this world a neighborhood. We're connected. I mean, he said this in the 60s. How much more now in 2021? We are a neighborhood. We're connected. We now know what people in other countries or people across this country are. I mean, we are connected in ways like we've never been before. He says, so through this scientific and technological genius, we've made of the world a neighborhood. And then he goes on and say, and now through our moral and ethical commitment, we must make of it a brotherhood. We must all learn to live together as brothers, or we will all perish together as fools. Again, with the threat of sort of nuclear holocaust on the horizon that he saw, saying we got to learn to get along or else we will destroy one another. Through our technological advancement, we have this power. We've got this connection now. We're a neighborhood, but are we really a brotherhood? That takes a moral soul development to become a brotherhood and a sisterhood, a family. Spiritual strength, soul strength, means that often we ask the question, just because we can do something, should we? Just because we have the technology and the power to do something, will we? Is it good? Is it right? Is it healthy? And as a global culture, we have to be determined to grow our spiritual power along with our technological power. Or else, as Dr. King warned us, we will die as fools. So this is the law of advancement, right? The law of advancement. Technology is just going to keep advancing. This is a march that we are not going to stop. But it's asking of us that we develop our souls, that we develop our spiritual power, the ethical capacities to know how to handle the technology that we have. So that's the first indisputable law of technology. The next one I want to talk about is this, that it's the law of the trade-off. The law of the trade-off. Every technological advancement offers us something new and wonderful and good, because that's why we're excited about it. But there's an underside, there's an other side to that coin where it takes something or changes something in a way that we didn't necessarily expect. With every new gain, something is lost. So you can think simply about something like air conditioning. You feel a little air breezing in here. Maybe you're a little chilly, maybe you're a little warm in the room today, but our homes have air conditioning. You know, that hasn't always been true, right? And we say, woo, praise Jesus for air conditioning. It's a wonderful technological advancement. But you know what happened, 100 years ago in the 1800s and early 1900s, because it began in the early 1900s, when no one's home had air conditioning? You know what you did? You went outside. And so did your neighbors. And people sat on their porches to feel the breeze. And people walked their streets, and they went down to the creek at the end of the neighborhood, or they went to the park. And they interacted with the people in their community because we weren't all closed up in our homes. There's a dramatic, older people will say that, like, hey, when we were kids, the streets were filled with people in our neighborhoods in the evenings. Today, you walk the streets and doors are closed, windows closed, everybody's inside. Air conditioning keeps us inside. Would Netflix be that appealing if it was 97 degrees in your home with 100% humidity? How long would you watch Netflix, right? Air conditioning is the precursor to Netflix, right? So, but who wants to go back to life without air conditioning? I don't, and I don't think you do either, but we did lose something when air conditioning was introduced. This hit me the hardest once when I was listening to a pastor who, he kind of a guru pastor who teaches other pastors stuff and about culture and how, things about churches and culture. And he said this statement that just stuck me. I heard this probably 5 years ago, and it pierced my soul, and it's stuck in my mind ever since. And he simply said this. He said, the neighborhood is dead, and the automobile killed it. And you're like, wow, my neighborhood's great. I'm sure your neighborhood's wonderful. It's very alive. But neighborhoods are not the same as they were pre-automobile, right? Even, it used to be that a town would have 3 or 4 churches, usually somewhere in the center of that town. Those church buildings are still with us, right? In Lancaster or wherever town, wherever you're from, there was a few churches in a town, depending upon the size of the town, and everybody went to those few churches. Everybody went to those same general stores. And the people in your neighborhood, like who you saw hanging out on the street, because you didn't have air conditioning, like you all walked down the street and you went to the same church together. Maybe it was a Methodist or a Lutheran or a certain Episcopal, whatever the denomination was. You picked your choice, but you had like 3 or 4 choices, right? And then the car becomes commonplace. Early 1900s, the automobile becomes affordable for the common American, and over time, right, this technological advancement continues to influence our culture and our society. And now, what happens today in 2020? You probably drove by 33 churches on your way to come to this church, right? Because this is the one you like for one reason or another. Praise Jesus. Thank you. Hallelujah. I'm glad you're here. Right? But the one that's in your neighborhood, I don't like the denomination or their theology or their preacher's quirky or the music isn't good or whatever. We got 1,000 reasons, and I'm not blaming you for any of that. But this is just the way the automobile has changed our lives. And so he made this comment, the neighborhood is dead and the automobile killed it. Because there used to be this sort of really thickly woven fabric of a community. We saw each other. Your neighbors, you interacted with them. You went to the same store. You saw each other at church. You went to the weddings together in that church. You went to funerals together in that church. You cried together. You celebrated together, right? How many of you would say, oh yeah, there's several people from my neighborhood who are here in this room this morning watching together online? It's very little. I'm not saying, oh, this is terrible. I'm just saying it changed, right? It's different. And I would say maybe the neighborhood isn't dead, but the neighborhood as we knew it in those days is dead, and now we are forming some new kind of neighborhood. But there's a law, it's the law of the trade-off. It's the law of the trade-off. We gain certain things, and we don't really want to go back, but we also lost some things. And some of what we lost, this is what where we have to have wisdom, and we have to have some insight. Some of what we lost has had negative impact on our souls. And we have to say, oh, we lost that. How do we get that back? How do we reincorporate that into our lives? All right, so that was the law of the trade-off, and so the third indisputable law of technology I want to share with you today is this. It's the law of proportion. This may be one that you haven't thought of, but there's a lot to think about here with this law of proportion. And you could summarize this by saying this, that the law of proportion says this, that a thing or person's capacity for good is directly proportional to its capacity for evil. Something's capacity for good is also directly proportional to its capacity for evil. The more you have of capacity for good, the more you have of capacity that something could be used for evil. In the epic poem Paradise Lost, Milton kind of wrestles with this idea as he discusses it kind of around the idea of Satan or Lucifer. Part of the fall of Lucifer and how terrible it's directly proportional to how glorious and wonderful he had the potential to be, or he was, as certain scriptures sort of portray that. You could think about it more practically or simply in the sense of what makes a baseball bat really good. Its hardness, and be able to hit a baseball out of the park with it also means you can do a lot of damage with a baseball bat, right? The very thing that makes it good at what it is, to the degree that it's good at that, it can be used for evil proportionally. And we could think about a lot of different things as we think about this. One of the things on the horizon for us now is something genetic engineering, right? We know the genome. We've mapped the human genome. We have the instruction manual for human beings. We know the code, the multi-billion letter, many billion, I don't know if anybody, I can't remember off the top of my head. There's many billions of little code combinations within the human genome, that double helix. And we figured it out. Go humans. And so now we have gene therapy, right, which is a wonderful thing, right? Gene therapy holds promise for treating a wide range of diseases. They believe like sickle cell anemia is going to be taken care of through gene therapy, through CRISPR, this little machine that can go into your DNA and change some of the letters around and fix a genetic anomaly. I don't even know what to do with that in my head. But through gene therapy, diseases such as cancer, cystic fibrosis, heart disease, diabetes, hemophilia, AIDS, all of these things, we have potential to cure these things, to make these things like a thing of the past because of our massive technological advancement and our understanding of the human genome and our ability to do genetic engineering. But with the same technology, we can also clone humans. There you go. That feels uncomfortable. That's good. It should feel uncomfortable. Boy, what do we do with that? And the global scientific community has condemned cloning human beings, and we should be thankful for this. The global scientific community has condemned it. We now have this technology. We can do it, and we should not do it. Right? But you know what? You know how it goes, right? Someone somewhere, under the cover of night, is going to put this into play. And actually, in November of 2018, a Chinese scientist announced that he had modified a key gene in a number of human embryos in a way thought to confer resistance to HIV. They implanted those embryos in women, and there are 3 GMO children living in the world today. And you start to go, wow, we can do pretty amazing things. We can heal these diseases and fix this and fix that. But what else does that mean we can do? There's a law of proportionality here. Great good is possible, and yet the possibility for incredible evil comes along with such technology. What would keep a future society from building an army of genetically modified soldiers or an intellectually superior race of humans? This stuff is dancing around out there in the periphery, on the borders. I'll work on that later. I'll come back to you next week on that. Woo, you can tell I went to college. Yeah, so it's kind of sobering, right? This law of proportionality, like the capacity for good, but also capacity for evil. So those, like the whole ethics around gene therapy and gene editing and all of that. That's a little much for us today. We just dance in the shallow pool of that for a little bit. And we're going to back out of that, and we're just going to think some practical things today about something that is practically affecting all of us, and that is some dynamics around smartphones and social media, right? Because never before in history has this much power been placed in the hands of an individual. You know, you pull out your phone, that little computer in your pocket is unbelievably powerful, right? Never before in human history have humans had access to so much information, to so much power, and through social media platforms now, you can post something, you can say something online, you can create a hashtag that within minutes or even seconds sometimes travels the globe and influences tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. Social media creates this massive megaphone for us. You say, well, is social media good or bad? Well, it depends, right? There's amazing good that you can do with social media, right? You can put so much good stuff out in the world today. You might have come across a social media feed, an Instagram account or a Twitter account that just you have found so much inspiration from, so much encouragement from, and that account led you to connect with another person, and that person became your spouse one day, or you connected with that account, and that helped pull you out of depression. And there's all kinds of amazing and wonderful good things that can happen through our smartphones and through social media, through interacting with social media. But the power for evil is just as strong, right? It's proportional. And so just like you can send a good message about the love of God across the globe in seconds, you can also send lies. You can also send propaganda. You can also send fake news across the globe in seconds. You can get the word out about a social problem that's happening, and word can get out quickly, but you can also send disinformation quickly. You know, cell phones and social media, they can be used to create true and good connections with other people, right? Especially coming off of a year of a pandemic, right? How would we be if we hadn't had Zoom, if we haven't had FaceTime, if we didn't have the capacity to still, through that season, be able to see people and interact with people? There's so much good there. You can find support groups for rare diseases that you or your children may have, or people who are walking through rare life situations. You can find those people on Facebook. You can connect. You can create groups. You can create real and good community. But as we engage with our cell phones and our social media, we have to ask ourselves, what are we losing? You know, this is the good. What's the evil? But also, what did it offer, and what have we lost? And I would submit to you that cell phones, and especially social media, are in what I would still quantify as a bit of a Wild West era. You know, we have this mythical ethos of the Wild West in the United States, and it was it's just vast space of land where there weren't many rules. It was new territory, right? And people could just go out there and do whatever they wanted. And then what happens in those kind of situations are usually, eventually, might makes right. the person with the biggest gun and the fastest draw becomes the one who's the winner, the one who's still standing after the dust settles. And it takes a little while in a Wild West situation for sort of civilization to catch up, for governments to come in and say, okay, all right, you need to stop killing yourselves, and you need to stop taking this and taking those and stealing from these people, and we need to set up some rules, some systems, so that we're all playing on this is what a healthy government might do, is so that we're all playing on a level playing field here. Let's make this fair. So, all this kind of, that was our Wild West of the settling America, North America, the United States. But cell phones and social media are in a Wild West phase, right? We invent this new technology, and it's like, there it goes, out into the culture. Like, there are no rules. There's no, like, what good is it going to do? What bad is it going to do? We don't know. We're just throwing it out there, right? And everybody gets on. You know that the age, when you look at the age of the social media platforms and you think about how ubiquitous they are in our lives, like you say Facebook, like who in the world has not at least been on Facebook or aware of Facebook or actively engaged in Facebook? It's not been around that long. I mean, it really only gained popularity around, what did it say, 2004, 2008, somewhere in there. So we're not even talking about a full 20 years that this technology has been present in the culture, and yet it's everywhere. The smartphone, right? I mean, 2010-ish, 2008, 2010, somewhere in there, the smartphone technology started, and 10 years later, 12 years later, it's everywhere. But it's still this Wild West sort of a reality that we're living in. There are no rules for the games. And those who have the biggest platform or gun, the loudest voice, are the ones who get to call the shots. Healthy governments will come in and say, all right, we need some rules to play the game here. We need to set things up so that people aren't getting hurt, that people aren't getting squashed, that societies are working well, that they still work for the little guy, not just the big guy. This happens with all new technology. You can even think about cars, like the introduction of cars into the culture. All of a sudden, we need roads. Roads probably should be built to some sort of specs, right? Or just, there should be some certain rules and regulations about where you put roads and what they're like. But we had to figure all that out. And eventually you go, oh my goodness, we should probably have speed limits for cars because people can go crazy. And we begin to say, how does this new technology work out safely within a culture, within a community? And I know that's a really sticky issue because everybody's got their own opinions on what that looks like. But we have to figure that out. But one of the things that, when we have to figure this out communally, like through our governments and our communities, our neighborhoods, we have to figure out, how does this technology affect us, and what kind of rules, regulations, policies, guidelines do we want to place around these things to protect us as a culture? But we also have to figure out that individually. We have to say, well, how do I want to engage with this technology? What does it look like for me? And so evidence is pouring in about how social media is ultimately damaging our souls and our mental health. Now, this is the part where you say, sounds like you went off the deep end here. Well, we do need to face some of this truth. But anyway, study after study is being done, and they all really are pointing in the same direction. There's a direct connection between increased social media usage and increased depression and anxiety. Right? So there's a lot of good that can happen with social media, but there's a lot of bad that can happen in social media too, and it is directly connected to depression and anxiety. I just saw an article this morning on ESPN, where I did not expect to find this conversation, but about how Andre Dillard, who is an offensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles, woo, go Birds, he is quitting social media for mental health reasons and for occupational reasons. The social media frenzy that happens around him and his career, it just was too much to handle, and it was affecting his gameplay and affecting his basic mental health. And he's saying, I'm off. I'm happier. I'm way happier since I got off of social media. And there are a lot of professional athletes that are doing the same. Author and psychologist Jean Twenge, she's published over 150 scientific articles. She's written 6 books about a lot of this stuff. She has a TED Talk out there. She says this: teens who spend more time than average on screen activities are more likely to be unhappy, and those who spend more time than average on non-screen activities are more likely to be happy. And she drives it home saying this. She says, there's not a single exception. All screen activities are linked to less happiness, and all non-screen activities are linked to more happiness. That's a pretty profound statement. So throw your screens in the river. Let's pray. No, don't ruin the Susquehanna like that, all right? There's a lot of potential for good, and there's a lot of potential for bad. And we got to learn, we got to do the soul development, the spiritual development to be able to learn to handle some of this. All right, I got to end. There was too much to talk about here. I was putting this message together. I was like, this is several messages. So I squeezed it all into one. So anyway, I want to end with a couple of questions for you to think about this week. All right, so a couple of questions to think about as you go out this week based upon things you've heard today. How are you being influenced? How are you being influenced? As you engage with your cell phone, as you engage with social media, I want you to think about, how am I being influenced? Again, these platforms have enormous power to separate us from our true selves. I've been telling you, silence, stillness, quiet, nature, these are the places where we can kind of connect with who we are, who God made us to be. We can center ourselves. These platforms pull us away from that, right? And I'm not saying abandon them, but I'm saying we have to figure out how to live in that tension. Influencers can distract you from who you are, from what your unique contribution to the world is, from who God created you to be. So I want to encourage you to pay close attention to the fruit that your feed is producing in you. So as you scroll that feed, and when you're done, what's the fruit that's happening? The fruit that's growing in you. Is it anxiety? Is it depression? Is it nervousness? Is it jealousness? Is it envy? Is it anger? Like, is that the fruit that's being produced after your engagement with social media? Or is it more like the fruit of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control, these things. And in the past year, trying to tend to my own mental health, I've been like relentless and ruthless in curating the feeds that I look at. Instagram, I'm like unfollow. Like, because I'm paying attention to what's happening in me. If I don't like it, I'm just unfollow. I don't need that. Unfollow. I don't need that. Unfollow. I don't need that. Right? I don't have to be friends with everybody on Facebook. I'm not friends with everybody in real life. Right? I'm cordial. I'm nice. I don't wish ill for you, but I can only manage a certain amount of friendships, right? Right? I mean, like, and sometimes we just have to be really intentional about curating what we're engaging with or what we're feeding into ourselves. All right, so I got to keep moving. Last thing, I'm way over. Last thing is how much. The question is to wrestle with this week is, how much are you being interrupted? How much are you being interrupted? Because this is a whole other piece of the social media thing or the cell phone game. Is pay attention to how often your phone interrupts your life, your conversations, your work, your thinking. And remember what Parker Palmer said, that the soul's like a wild animal. We have to be quiet in order to see it. Right? I have a working theory that I think the notifications on our phone were created by Satan. I've got some credibility. I got a few Bible verses to support it. But this is something I did years ago, and I don't know what your relationship with notifications are, but like I don't want to be notified about anything. When I want to know, I'll go on there and I'll look. Right? Unless text messages, they come through, phone calls come through, you know. So the idea of the interruptions, the constant interruptions, do you really need to know when someone likes your Instagram post? You don't need to know that. You can go back on and look at some point and say, oh, a bunch of people like my Instagram post. That's wonderful, right? Or we just have to regulate this as people. I have this vision of like Jesus like walking across the dusty road, making his way up the mountain, teaching people, and he's like, I say to you, verily, verily, I say to you. All right, where was I? Verily, verily, I say to you, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Wait, hang on, I got to take this, all right? No, Thomas, I'm busy right now. Anyway, sorry. All right, okay, so you get how much are you being interrupted? These interruptions are not healthy for us, right? You can only handle so many. Right? Science is proving this. Do the research on your own. I was going to tell you about some of it, but I'm going to skip it for now because I've gone too long. So the point of that was every app that wants you to allow notifications, just say no. Just, you download a new app, please allow notifications, just say no. All right, so anyway. One of the songs they sang said, be still. They used this verse from Psalm 46. Be still and know that I am God. There's a lot of good that we've gained through our social media, through phones and all that. We don't want to go backwards, but how do we handle it? The law of proportionality, the law of advancement, the law of the trade-off, what have we lost? We need to do the work to think about these things, and maybe these 2 questions will help you think about them this week. And I'm going to pray, and we'll be done with this part. The band will come up and lead us in a song. Jesus, thank you so much for today. Thanks for a few minutes where we can think about these things, think about technology and how it's affecting our lives. It's so profound, and it's kind of been a slow creep. It's been a fast creep, but I think a lot of us, might stop and turn around and say, man, I didn't realize how powerfully some of this was affecting me. So help us develop the soul and develop soul strength and soul power so that we can know how to handle our feed, the social media feeds, the cell phones, whatever other technology is coming down the pike for us. We're in this massive race to keep up with this capacity, with this technology that is so, so powerful. So I pray that you would help us. We want to live lives, healthy lives, connected to ourselves, connected to you, connected to the purposes that you have for us in this world. And so I pray that you'd help us learn how to use these tools to accomplish that and help us mitigate against the negative effects and the damages that they bring into our lives. So it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Here I am, down on my knees again, surrendering all, surrendering all. Find me here, Lord, as you draw me near, desperate for you, desperate for you. I surrender.
Drench my soul as mercy and grace unfold. I hunger and thirst. I hunger and thirst. With arms stretched wide, I know you hear my cry. Speak to me now. Speak to me now. I surrender. I surrender. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. I surrender. I surrender. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. I surrender. Like a rushing wind, Jesus, breathe within. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. Like a mighty storm, stare within my soul. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. like a rushing wind. Jesus, breathe me in. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. Like a mighty storm, stir within my soul. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. Like a rushing wind, Jesus, breathe me in. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me. Like a mighty storm, stir within my soul. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your way in me.
All right. Thank you, Ben. Thanks for being here this morning. I hope and pray that today was helpful for you, helpful to you in your spiritual journey. I hope you enjoyed this series, Breathe, and that you found some practical things to kind of incorporate in your own life as you care for your own soul on this journey of life. And if it's been helpful, or if you got questions, we'd love to hear any feedback you have about this specifically. And even today, as we've talked about technology, I would love to hear your stories around technology and things you're learning. So glad that you're here. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about forgiveness from God, forgiveness of one another. We're kind of getting into a new teaching series. We have some guests jumping in next week. You want to catch that. Also, Sean Smucker will be speaking in a couple of weeks. We're really glad to have him jumping in. So we have some good things lined up. And this week was a kids' week, so if you do have kids out there, it's helpful if you run out there quickly and get those kids. It's hard for them to be responsible for them as people start mixing and mingling. So they want them in your responsibility quickly. But you don't have to leave quickly. You can hang out, chit-chat, talk, get to know each other. That's a great reason why we're here today. And thanks for those of you who are joining online. Hope you had a good morning with us. Don't forget to fill out that digital connection card if you haven't. And we hope to see you back next week. And until then, Godspeed.